What's up guys, it's Chris Majestic, and you guys know I'm all about big home theater speakers, but sometimes you just want something simple for your living room. Well, today I'm going to be testing out the Sony A5000 soundbar to see how it sounds and let you know if it's worth the money. Today's video is sponsored by Opera. So having worked in the IT industry for over 16 years, one thing that people don't really think about is their web browser. Most people just tend to use whatever web browser their computer or phone came with, or maybe they switched to another browser several years ago and they still think it's the best. Well, Opera is an award-winning personal web browser that offers a faster, safer, and smarter way to browse the web on your phone, tablet, or computer. It has a ton of built-in features such as an integrated ad blocker, which automatically blocks pesky internet ads. There's a cool pinboard feature, which is like a collaboration space where you can share cool links and photos with other people. And it has a cool sidebar feature that gives you quick access to your favorite messenger services like Facebook Messenger, Instagram, Telegram, and more. And my favorite feature is definitely the pop-out video player. So if you're on YouTube, you can click a button and it'll give you a pop-out window, and you can keep the window open anywhere on the screen while you work. So if your web browsing has been painfully slow or you're looking for a safer and more secure browsing experience, use the link in the video description to get started with Opera today. I want to thank Opera for sponsoring today's video, and let's jump back into the Sony A5000 review. So about a year ago, I put together a pretty basic home theater setup in my living room. It consists of a Denon receiver, a few DefTech Demand series speakers, and some 12-inch DefTech subs. Now you guys know I like big sound, but my wife didn't want big floor speakers in the living room, so this setup is a less conspicuous compromise for an occasional TV show or a family movie when we don't feel like going down into the basement. Well, a couple of months ago, Sony reached out to me to see if I was interested in testing out their A5000 soundbar, so I figured this would be a great opportunity to test and see the difference between a home theater speaker setup versus a moderately priced soundbar. Now, even though Sony did send this out for me to test, this video is not sponsored by Sony, and all of the thoughts and comments in this video are my own. Okay, so what is the Sony A5000? Well, it's a Dolby Atmos soundbar that retails for $1,000 and sits right below their $1,400 flagship soundbar, which is the A7000. Now, I know most people don't spend that much on a soundbar, but I'll tell you right up front that Sony makes fantastic soundbars that rival full home theater systems that cost a lot more. So what makes it worth the high price tag? Well, even though that price doesn't include a subwoofer, it is a high quality system that has some pretty sophisticated sound positioning technology, which I'll talk about a little bit later. It's also easily expandable, which allows you to add additional speakers and calibrate them to work perfectly in your room. Now, of course, you have the option of running this soundbar by itself, considering it has a built-in subwoofer, but if you want the absolute most immersive setup, then adding more speakers definitely helps. So aside from the A5000, I also have a few other speakers with me today that are compatible with it. I have the SW3 Subwoofer, which is a 6-inch 200-watt sub that's currently on sale for $349, the RS5 battery operated wireless rear speakers, which retail for $599, and the more traditional RS3S wireless speakers, which are currently on sale for $299. So this is a full Dolby Atmos setup, and with the RS5 wireless speakers and the current sale pricing, this setup costs around $1,600. Now again, that's not cheap, but when you compare that to a modular home theater setup, it doesn't seem so bad. So in comparison, my current 5.2 basic surround living room setup retails for about $3,500. That doesn't even include the price of my subwoofers, and I don't even have Dolby Atmos speakers. But the point I'm trying to make is that modular home theater pricing can get out of hand pretty quickly. Okay, so anyway, before we get into testing the A5000, first I want to take a quick look at its design. It has a pretty sleek black body measuring just over 2 3/4 inches tall, almost 48 inches wide, and nearly 6 inches deep. This low height helps if you plan on mounting it on a TV stand with your TV behind it, so it doesn't block the bottom of the TV. And if it does block the infrared sensor on your TV, it does have a built-in IR repeater, so your TV remote will still work. And it does come with a full-featured remote, which has separate buttons for each input, and it's nice that they included separate volume controls for the rear speakers and the subwoofer. As far as the ports on the back of the soundbar, it has an HDMI input that supports up to 8K at 120 Hz pass-through, an HDMI output which supports eARC, an optical audio input, and a USB port which can be used to play lossless audio files. It has 5 front speakers, 2 up-firing Dolby Atmos speakers, 2 beam tweeters, and a built-in subwoofer. And if you're not familiar with up-firing speakers, they reflect sound off your ceiling ceiling to give you the illusion of ceiling speakers, which can be pretty convincing depending on your room. And the beam tweeters bounce the sound off the side walls, which makes for a wider soundstage that makes the system sound bigger than it actually is. Now I'll tell you that I'm not a big fan of built-in subwoofers and soundbars since I prefer big bass, but having a subwoofer built in does help fill out the bottom end of the front soundstage. And again, you can always add a wireless subwoofer if you're anything like me. And for those of you who care, here are the technical specs of the A5000, so feel free to pause this screen here if you're interested. Aside from the hardware, the A5000 has a ton of other tricks up its sleeve. One of my favorite features is the sound field optimization, which uses what they call 360 spatial sound to adapt the system to your room. Now I've seen this before, but I gotta admit that the sound mapping tech from this soundbar is among the best I've seen. And this also might be the easiest Dolby Atmos soundbar I've ever set up. All I did was unbox the soundbar, connect it to the TV's eARC port, and plug the speakers into the wall. The soundbar has its own TV interface, and the whole setup process took less than 5 minutes. This even includes the speaker calibration process, which automatically found the speakers and calibrated them to my room using the built-in microphone. And to show how well the soundbar works with Bravia Connect, Sony let me borrow one of their latest TVs to show how it works. So not only did it work seamlessly when I connected the soundbar to the TV via eARC, but the TV was able to pass the Wi-Fi information to the soundbar without me having to go through the entire setup process, which is pretty cool. And if your Sony TV has acoustic center sync, it allows you to use both the TV's speakers and the soundbar as a center channel speaker in your home theater system. But enough about all of that. How does this thing sound? Well, initially I tested the soundbar with the wireless sub and the RS5 wireless speakers, and my first thoughts when I heard it was that this might be one of the most immersive soundbars I've ever heard. Sound comes from literally all around the entire room, and it definitely sounds like there are more than 3 physical speakers in the room. The sound of glass breaking and debris falling is fantastic, and I can distinctively hear the separation between background music and the action. I think my favorite part of this system is the RS5 surround speakers. Not only do they sound fantastic, but they're completely wireless. Probably the biggest complaint that I see from people when it comes to wireless surround speakers is that they're not actually wireless. You either have to connect them to the subwoofer or you have to plug them into the wall. Well, the RS5 fixes this issue by them being completely wireless with a battery life up to 10 hours. This means if you really wanted to, you could just pull these speakers out whenever you wanted to watch a movie, and you can sit them literally anywhere in the room. They also produce up to 180 watts, they have up-firing Dolby Atmos speakers built in, and they're omnidirectional using the 360 spatial sound mapping that the soundbar uses, which explains why it sounded like there were a bunch of speakers in the room. Now, the less expensive RS3S surround speakers don't sound as impressive as the RS5s, but they still do a good job of producing surround sound when placed properly. Now, it is important to note that they don't have the built-in Dolby Atmos speakers and they're not omnidirectional, but if you don't need a completely wireless speaker and the immersion of the RS5, they're not a bad option if you want to save some money. When it comes to the SW3 subwoofer, I really didn't have any high hopes considering it's only a 6-inch driver, but it still manages to do a decent job carrying the bass for this system as long as you aren't trying to shake the pictures off the wall. Thankfully, Sony does have an option for bass-hungry people like myself and offer the SW5, which is a 300 watt subwoofer with a slightly larger 7-inch driver. Now, I don't have the SW5 with me today, but with an extra 100 watts, I'm sure it fills out the bottom end even better. So how did this system sound overall as a package? Well, as I said, the immersion and surround experience is fantastic, but there are 2 things I could nitpick about. The first concern is overall loudness. With the retail price of $1,000, I wanted this thing to blow me away, and it kind of left me wanting a bit more volume. The subwoofer produced good bass, and the tweeters and surround speakers sparkled brightly, but I kind of felt a void in the mid-range even though it wasn't drastic. That being said, having heard the higher-end Sony A7000, I think it did a much better job with mid-range and overall loudness, so if you're picky, it might be worth spending the extra money for the 7000. Okay, so what's the verdict? Is the A5000 worth the price? Well, if I have to be completely honest, for $1,000 retail or $700 when it's on sale, I think the wireless subwoofer should have been included. Most people are gonna want more bass than the built-in subwoofer can offer, and I think the SW3 subwoofer being included would be enough for me to recommend this to pretty much anyone looking to spend $700 $700 for a soundbar. Once you start to approach $1,000 or more for a soundbar, you start to lose a lot of people, and I think most people will probably just leap for the A7000 at that point. So this puts the A5000 in a tough spot considering the price. Now that being said, the features and performance are definitely class leading, so even with the high price tag, I can still recommend it to anyone who is looking for something simple or something flexible that can fill a room with sound. Now, as far as how it compares to my existing living room home theater setup, I can definitely say it's more immersive and does a much better job filling the room with its up-firing and omnidirectional speakers. The only two benefits of my system is overall loudness and of course bass, considering I have two 12-inch subwoofers. But when you consider how fast and easy the setup was and significantly cheaper the price is compared to my system, I think most people might take the soundbar over my setup. But that's gonna pretty much do it for this video, guys. Hopefully you found it helpful. If you did, go ahead and make sure you mash that like button for me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon so you don't miss any new videos. And I do have a bunch of new videos coming up for you guys, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on those. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.